All right, good morning, Doug. Today we're not going to talk about news. We're going to talk about the zeitgeist and our observations about what we see happening in the minds of those we have exposure to. And I think the first best place to start is with this interview you had with this woman named Kim Iverson, who I think is very good. You know, she's well communicated and she has a big show on YouTube, and she had you on for an interview the other day.
Yeah, I wasn't previously familiar with Kim, but she's smart, she's knowledgeable, and she's got a very big audience. So we chatted, and uh, I was shocked at the not the nature of our conversation so much. I liked Kim, not so sure she liked me,
No,
but
Doug, I can tell you, I watched her. She does not like you. She was
hmm,
very combative
yeah,
with,
she was.
at least she didn't not like the way that you were answering her questions. I can say that for sure. She might like you as a human, but like she did not like the way the interview was going.
Well, we had a short conversation before I went on the air with uh, where we were talking about the novels I've done with John Hunt, and we got into talking a little bit about Assassin, and I mentioned the opening line from Assassin, which is to say, some people just need killing. And she took umbrage at that, and I had to explain to her that there are bad people in the world, which she's well aware of. But anyway, uh, yeah, she was, and maybe her listeners kind of keyed off of her kind of mild dislike or whatever it was of me or what I was saying. I'm not
Sh-
sure.
She was combative.
She was competitive, no question about it. But in any event, so far, she's gotten about 150,000 views. I don't know if that's more than she usually gets or not, and over 2,000 comments, which is quite a few, I guess. So anyway, the comments I found were overwhelmingly negative. And the reason I bring this up is because unlike the podcasts that you and I do, which are to a presumably friendly audience, or the podcasts I do for other people that are philosophically aligned with what we're talking about, Kim's audience is the general public, although she does have a conservative and slightly libertarian lean to her conservatism. So what I was disturbed by, talking about the zeitgeist, is they're kind of a better random sampling of what the hoi polloi feel. And the hoi polloi didn't like my rap that I was laying down. Two things in particular got the goat of the average listener of Kim's is that they thought that it was a contradiction, hypocritical, uh, that a libertarian anarchist who believes in pure capitalism would be living in a welfare state, which, of course, um, Uruguay is. Well, unfortunately, Kim didn't really pursue that, exactly why I was living in Uruguay, and didn't point that a supposed contradiction out. The answer to the question is that and I think you too, but I'm not going to speak for you, live in Uruguay because it's quiet and peaceful and nobody bothers you here. And I don't take advantage of their welfare system at all. I,
I pay into it for my
yeah,
employees and everything else. Yeah, nothing.
but these people, most of whom haven't been, well, I say none of them have been further than 50 miles from the place they were born, but that would be untrue. Uh, they all thought this is contradiction, hypocrisy. How can you be a rich guy living in a welfare state? I mean,
It
uh,
was a huge gotcha moment for these
huge
people.
gotcha moment, right? So, and this is, of course, why dealing with the public is such a nightmare. Uh, these people don't want to have a rational discussion about the pros and cons and what do you really mean. They're what they're doing is they're dramatizing their psychological problems and uh, their triggers, activate engrams in their mind where they go wild. Uh, I don't know how many of these people that uh, go out of their way to comment in a hostile manner are just living in their mom's basements or what. But
Well, let me tell
anyway,
you, like, one of the most offensive comments someone says, libertarians love Uruguay's age of consent laws.
I saw that. I didn't know that Uruguay had low age of consent laws, but I mean, why would somebody bring that up? He must be bouncing something off of his own psyche, bringing that up.
Yeah, well, let's see. What is the age of consent law in Uruguay? Uh, the age of consent is 15 years old. The age of consent is 15.
Oh,
Okay.
all right. Well,
So it's not 18. So I guess that's true. I don't know. How many 15-year-old Uruguayans do you know or even met? They have no kids here. That's one of the problems with this country is that the median age is 36.
yeah, I know. I know these people. The comments they make tell you a lot less about reality than it does about the nature of the person asking the question. Anyway, that's kind of annoying. So lots and lots of people were triggered by the fact that anybody would not want to live in America. You must be unpatriotic, you must hate America, blah, blah, blah.
Or you're doing it for some weird self-gain as a
Yeah,
rich libertarian living in socialism.
yeah, yeah. It, dealing with the public is always a nightmare because you get these people that the lame, the halt, and the blind get rounded up, and they all get their say online. And the other thing that people on Kim's show were triggered by was the fact that I was pointing out agencies that ought to be abolished, and the FDA was one of them. And I called it the Federal Death Authority, and I said that it kills more people in the average year than the Defense Department does in a typical decade. And Kim came back and said, well, you need somebody that's going to protect us from deadly things and so forth. And of course, we didn't go into a conversation about that because then we would have gotten into the shots and how they've probably killed a lot. Anyway, the whole thing. So I don't
But
know why I
but
do
what
these.
you said, what you said is you said what you need here is personal responsibility.
Right. Yeah.
That triggered people in a shocking way.
Mm.
Personal responsibility? What are you talking about here? The corporations take over. Like I'm supposed to know the 51 chemicals that my doctor gives me? That's what someone said.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
No,
are.
yeah,
You are supposed to know.
the situation is pretty hopeless, actually. I mean, it really is. But I guess I do these things because they're vaguely amusing. And if you cast a wide net, maybe 2 or 3% of the people like what I had to say and hadn't heard it anywhere else. So they might tune into our podcast, which is nice. But then again, our podcast had all kinds of negative feedback too. The last one we did, which had 30,000 listeners, not the 140 some thousand that we got for Kim. But
Right. We're talking to a friendly audience, one would think, right? And
yeah, kind of a
and
self-selected audience, really. Well, definitely.
and and we were doing was responding to questions of our viewers, So, so let me just go through, I'll read the comments and you can comment or not on some of the things that are said. I mean, uh, first one that stands out, these guys are scum. Then anyone who says you should disown your kids if they don't turn out right definitely should not have kids.
Well, was the person that said that we were scum, did he explain himself, or was that just an idle?
That's it. That's it.
Oh, so like this is Orwell's 2 Minutes of Hate. I mean, he's expressing his emotions, but I don't care about his emotions. I'd like to know why he's feeling those emotions. I'd like to delve into his psychology and his reasoning, if any, a little bit. Anyway, that's interesting.
Right. And you know, one of the big problems, and we talked about this right before we start recording, is that we read the comments and we take them as if they're given in good faith, meaning like that people are, you know, is there some, you know, there was like last year people called me fat, but these were people who I know comment a lot. They called me fat, and they're like, yeah, but they were right. I'd gained some weight. It's true.
That's strange, but there's no way a rational person could possibly call you fat. That's
Well, but
ridiculous.
I gained some weight definitely over the period of time, and it was okay. But actually, he said, Matt, looks like you're kind of putting on, you know, a few pounds. You got to lay off the, you know, whatever the dulce de leche or something, you know. But actually, I took it as constructive. I go, that he's right. So, and that's the way we always take our comments is that, well, is there something true to that that we can learn from?
Well, I often get a comment like, Doug is old. And I say, damn it, that's true. I can't avoid that. And if you're lucky, or perhaps unlucky, it'll happen to you too. But it's a stupid and ridiculous comment. Okay, pointing out the obvious. Why say something that's obvious?
Yeah, and some of these are a little less obvious. He says, it gives you sense of the vibe. There were a lot of comments like this, and I'll cover several of them. Honestly, I feel like it's almost a crime to bring someone else into this world with the way things are going, how chemicals and such are making sexless people, stupid people. Unless people smarten up, catch 22 there, I won't be having any kids. Hell no, that's torture.
Hmm.
It's okay.
Well,
You know, and there's
well,
and this thing about not having kids, it just shows this mind virus about how, and I know that people, you know, people, are not in the best economic position, and I understand that. And I mean, I really understand that. You know, I am from a single mother who had four kids at the time, and we were dirt poor, electricity off often because she couldn't make the bill, cupboards always bare, but we're fine. We're fine. So, I mean, she was poor, way poorer than than these comments are, and yet she still had children. So, um, so someone says, I so disagree with this man emphasizing to have children. There are so many people that can't afford children. All these single mothers should still be having children. There's so much more than having children just to be having children for the sake of it. It's the quality of life that you can offer that child that should be part of the discussion. I'm not watching the rest of this video, so I don't know the rest of the discussion, but I feel like his tangent, I don't know what that is. My vocabulary is not good enough for her, or I guess. He's on right now about having children is obsessive and not realistic and in many layers.
well, there's a person that was has been triggered, as you'd say. It's like that. People hear something, and there really is such a thing, I think, as being triggered, and they go off into a tangent that like it causes them to go into the recesses of their psyche and unload on that. It's like this person thinks that you're suggesting that unmarried or homeless women go out and drop suckers at will everywhere. But
Yeah. Or that I'm suggesting that somebody be forced to have children, you know, or that you know, or that I have no idea of the realities of the world, or that kids are difficult, they're a burden and a joy. Like that's the reality. That all good. The most of the best things in life are contradictions in a way. That's just how it is. Um, Actually, you guys have been calling for the collapse for 15 years. People who listened to you lost out on huge gains.
Well, two things. Uh, First of all, I've been calling for the collapse ever since I started understanding economics. So I guess I've been calling personally for the collapse for at least 50 years at this point. But that's got nothing to do with my opinions on the market. And I think that the economy, I've tried to point this out so many times, but people only hear what they want to hear. I point out that constantly that things will inevitably get better because technology will continue increasing for lots of reasons that I'm not going to go into now. And the average person's wired like a squirrel. He produces more than he consumes and likes to save the difference. So capital supply of the world goes up. So I point that out. And then I like to point out that the government is a destructive force that's running against those two things. But people don't hear the argument. They only hear that I expect a fantastic depression. And I explain why that is. But
Yeah,
doesn't mean the sun's not shining today or you shouldn't enjoy yourself. So it's, once again, it's a question of these people don't want to have uh, a conversation where they can understand something and we can communicate. They just want to express what's triggering them or making them unhappy or 2 minutes of hate, like George Orwell said. One of
right.
those.
Exactly. And I also think that, the reality of people complaining about economics, their financial position in our comments demonstrates that you've been right. Because while it's not a collapse that all of a sudden it's Mad Max, people's standard of living has in fact eroded quite dramatically, over the last 3 years, 5 years, 50 years. And, it's happening in a slow motion train wreck. So people's own statements validate the idea that the economic or the financial system is broken, the money system is broken, and it's causing people to be poorer. But whatever.
Well, it's the old story of shooting the messenger. And yeah, I'm the messenger, and it's really not very smart on my part to be giving people bad news because people associate you with bad news and they hate you and think that you're somehow responsible for it. So I'm asking myself, wait a minute, I don't need to do any of this. I don't need to say anything. So why am I bothering to do it? So that's a good question.
That's a good question, and we've been asking ourselves this question for 3 years now. Honestly, if whether or not it's worth doing this. And I think we're getting close to a time where it's not, because they're clearly going to turn against us, or even people who liked us, because we're going to keep saying what we think is true. And when it clashes against some belief they must hold on to because it's tied to their identity, they're going to hate us. But the good news is, Doug, is that another comment, God is coming back and is given up on people of this earth as if they've lost faith and fallen from his grace. Often people say, be fearful of God, but of course, it's not too late for Doug to repent.
Oh, I'm so glad you're, you know, a ray of hope. Thank you very much. I appreciate your good wishes and your comment.
Yeah. And then we get annoying video. That's a nice one.
Annoying.
Um,
Yeah.
annoying. Yeah. I hope he didn't watch the whole thing. That would be dumb. Uh, and then another one is poor rich people. I feel so bad for them.
Hmm.
And then we get from
You know,
Miss.
this is amazing. This is apparently from a poor person or somebody who perceives himself as being poor. And, I'm not trying to be confrontational, but quite sincerely, well, why are you poor and whose fault is it? Is there somebody in particular you'd like to blame? Or have you thought about the reason you may be poor is you don't produce enough goods or services that other people want, that that's why you don't have any money, because
You
you
can
don't have any skills or you're lazy or what's
you
the
can
reason? I mean, I'd like
or
to know
you
what the reason is.
Yeah, well, I mean, they consume more than they produce. I mean, that's the answer usually, right? Some version of that.
Yeah,
Um,
that's right.
and then
So
from Miss Mermaid 11, interesting. Men talking about women and pregnancy.
we're not supposed to talk about that, I guess. Or
Yeah, I guess not. I mean, I've always felt when I was having my kids and my wife was pregnant, I felt like it has much to do with me as it did with her. They're my children. So I don't know. I feel like I have a right to discuss it, even though I have a penis.
well, or
Um,
maybe not, because we're part of the oppressive patriarchy. But maybe I'm putting words in Miss Mermaid's mouth. Maybe she doesn't feel that way. I don't know.
it,
But
it's impossible to know what she feels for sure, but we can guess, I think.
it's an expression of emotion. And what I'd prefer is I'd like a reasoned comment as opposed to an emotional outburst, which is what most of these things are.
Yeah, this is more of um, a thought out comment, although I think it's based upon fear and falsehood. And it is Matt sending 7 young men into perpetual possible hell with family divorce court, losing half of your assets and property, many times alienation from the mother, so your kids won't talk to you anymore. Many men don't ever recover financially and mentally. Way to go, Matt. Let me comment on this one because I'm divorced.
Yeah.
My kids, who I have a great relationship with, and the mother, who I'm on good terms with, we don't seek each other out, but we're on good terms. Um, and I lost more than half of my stuff. In fact, I gave her 65%. Why? Because she was legally entitled to 50, and the 15% made it so that it could all be peaceful. There would be no issues, and it was totally worth it. So, um, you know, usually these people who have this attitude have this belief that they're going to get screwed out of, their wealth out of, or whatever by a woman and that can destroy their lives. And obviously women can destroy your lives.
Oh, for
But there
sure.
is such a thing. This goes back to personal responsibility. Like when I realized that my marriage was hopeless, there was like nothing, and there was nothing I could do to fix it. The question was, what can I do? And I wanted the kids to be part of my life. So I did whatever I could to make sure that that happened. Bought her a house, rented a house a block away. She lived in this big, beautiful house. I lived in this duplex. It worked. It was fine by me. And I mean, it's worked out really well. So, and by the way, there's prenups and I said this to someone in a comment. I replied, there's prenups, if you have a lot of assets and they said they never work, they don't work, they can be thrown out of court. Well, that's true if you don't do them right, but if you do them right, if the your partner has legal counsel, then I don't know. Anyway,
Anyway, your first line of defense is to not choose a problem person. Uh, I mean, this is one reason I think why you shouldn't get married when you're 16 or 18 or 20 or even 25 or maybe even 30, because you don't have the experience in dealing with other people to be able to figure out what's hiding within their minds. And anyway, two people, even if they're compatible at age 20, inevitably grow or don't grow in different directions. And what you want is somebody that's fully formed. And the comment that I made about adopting kids, I don't want to adopt a baby. I can see why you might, because you can inculcate the kid with what we believe are correct concepts. I'd rather adopt somebody that I know what I'm getting. I know what his basic moral character is, because that usually doesn't change what they think is right and wrong, their moral character. Anyway,
and
it's a
and
question
and
of, it's a question of judgment, and you don't
and
have that when you're a kid.
And there were a lot of complaints about that, about your suggestion of adopting someone like that too, which I can get to. But
Yeah.
so this is next comment is what a great way to spend a whopping hour and a half listening to two old has-beens who really have been left behind, bickering and being condescending towards others by the modern world.
Hmm. Well, once again, it's a mirror. Comments that you make are always a reflection, in almost everybody's case, of what you see in yourself or what you fear or whatever. I mean, it's true, I'm old, uh, but you're not. And are we has-beens? How do you define a has-been? Uh,
To who? To
yeah.
what?
Anyway, why are you listening to it if it annoys you? I like to listen to things that I find uplifting or beneficial, not stupid and annoying. So why is
Yeah,
he torturing himself?
yeah, I listened to the entire hour and a half. I mean, that's kind of shows poor judgment. I mean,
Yeah,
that Miss Mermaid knew right away to bail.
Miss Mermaid is smarter than this person.
I think so. Okay. And I get this a lot, at least. Maybe both of us do. Shame on you both for not staying in America and fighting for it.
Hmm. Yeah, I know. Well, I always point out, would it have been smart to stay in Russia in 1917 and get washed away by the Red Revolution, or stay in China in 1948 after Mao took over, or stay in Germany in 1933? I'm not saying it's going to be as bad as that in the US, although it could be. I don't know. It's possible. But what does this person think that we're going to do?
Well, I want to know what this person's doing fighting right now. Like maybe if I understood what the fight was, who it was against, and what it was for,
Hmm.
uh, but I have questions for this guy. It's like, how are you fighting?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. What's he doing?
Well, he's commenting, he's shaming us. Um, and I like to point out that my ancestors came over on the Mayflower. I guess they were quitters too. And so I'm just keeping up the old American line of abandoning the bad place for the place where there's future opportunity for my children and their children.
That's right, because my ancestors took the chicken run also, escaping the potato famine in Ireland on the one side and getting the hell out of Lithuania on the other side uh, at about the time of the Russian Revolution. So they all took the chicken run to come to America. Yep.
They
No,
should cowards should have stayed and fought.
should have stayed and fought. That's right. Okay, mea culpa.
Yeah. You should have a lot of kids. Are you living in the same world and economy as the rest of us? Elon Musk made this trendy to say this, but he's worth a few more dollars than you. Now, Elon Musk is worth like everything I've ever earned in my life is a rounding error of probably what he earns in a week. So
Yeah.
we're not in the same ballpark at all. But I have a 19-year-old son, so I've been pro kids for a long time.
Well, this is interesting. What what does Elon Musk have to? Yes, Elon Musk is famous for wanting to reproduce and bring kids into the world, which he can support. I don't know if he educates them well or not. After all, he's got a son who's a tranny. So Elon must have dropped the ball someplace along the line, not paying enough care or giving enough instruction or moral succor to the kid. So I understand what Elon wants to do. That's fine. But even he dropped the ball. And as far as how much money do you need? Uh, what's he have? Elon's supposed to have like 400 billion. Is that the
It's
number?
something like that, yeah.
Like that. Well, you don't need that much. How much money do you really need in order to get everything that you can reasonably want in the world? Uh, Fly first class when you want, to where you want, stay in five-star hotels, have a nice house, blah, 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 all these things. What's the actual dollar figure in today's world that allows you to do all those things? Uh, and of course, it depends on how you
Income.
deploy that money too. I mean, if is it something that offers a yield or is it something static like real estate that you're hoping goes up? I don't know. If I were to speculate as to what the hard number would be, I'd say 30 million.
Yeah, I think it's a lot less than that. It just depends upon how much shit you own that you don't use,
Hmm.
you
Oh,
know?
lots, lots. In fact, just going through my closet, I really want to throw away about, you know, I'd like to feel more footloose and fancy free as opposed to tied down by all the shit I own at this
Yeah, well,
point.
I would say which closet in which house, Doug. That's
Yeah, that's the other problem. So, and I don't believe in conspicuous consumption, but these things, if you have a good income and you save your money and all this type of thing, you accumulate stuff. But at the same time, my personal model that I like to keep in my mind is a Taoist monk uh, riding on the back of a buffalo. Doesn't really have anything, but is perfectly happy. And so,
right. So
I do feel,
if you think of yourself with that attitude, okay, and if you want to travel, fly first class, if you're going to stay in hotels, stay in a five-star hotel, that number's got to be way less than 30 million.
yeah, it does have to be way less than that. Why did I pick that number? Because if you have 30 million, a reasonably, well, just invested in T-bills, which I wouldn't do, but that would yield you like 1.2 million a year or something like that. And it's pretty hard to spend more than 1.2 million a year. That's a lot of money.
It is a lot of money.
You're right.
Right.
It does take a lot less than 30 million. A lot
Yep.
less.
And if you have any other income, if you're still working, you know, it's a it's a lot less that you need as a capital base than that. I mean, I think you can I think it's there's income and then there's assets. So if you're just on assets, then maybe you're probably looking at something like 10 if that's all you got. I think you could live on that. I really do. And if you have income, then maybe it's probably 250,000.
Yeah. And anyway, why are we working? I don't have to work. You don't have to work, but we're doing this, I guess, because we believe we're doing something that's good karma and productive,
Right.
not because we need the money to to keep the lights on. So
Nope.
this person ought to examine his views of how much stuff he needs, how much stuff he wants. I mean, lots of problems.
Yeah, and the other thing I'll say is that my advocacy for having children is really advocacy for being a father. So it's not like I don't like Elon Musk's approach. It's like he finds women that he thinks interesting and then they do in vitro. Like just to generate like that, like that's not my thing. I'm like you miss out on the best part, you know. The best part, I've heard you argue that there's not much point in letting you being ruled by your DNA, letting your DNA your DNA desire to procreate, to
Yeah,
continue
that's
on.
right.
And that's not my interest in it at all. I mean, my interest in it is that there's is the much it's the I'd say it's not a biological imperative. It's a quality of life imperative.
Yeah. And anyway, it's it's amazing to me that people like to rank on Elon, who's been incredibly productive and successful. I mean, look, there are many paths up the mountain. And as long
Agreed.
as somebody's not doing something that's actively destructive or living as a parasite, which Elon is not, uh, leave him alone. He's a
Yeah.
good guy, I think, basically.
So here's kind of a nasty one toward you, Doug. Doug doesn't understand that he is the definition of the problem. Men who selfishly led their lives with no thought to the future, thought
Mhm.
themselves above petty national concerns,
Mhm.
frittered their lives overseas, come
Mhm.
back and suddenly see there's a big problem. Boomer mindset, unrepentant, and therefore unredeemed. But there's still time.
Oh, oh,
He didn't
well,
say
that's,
that. I'm adding the other ladies.
huh. Well, I don't know. I guess we ought to take that almost sentence by sentence. Some of it's true, and some of it is jumping to conclusions. I mean, the fact is that I lived most of my life inside the US, and I really didn't move out of the US basically until I was about, I mean, lots of travel. But I didn't move outside of the US basically until I was around 40. And what I'm coming, you say I'm coming back to the US to do something now or what?
No, well, let's take the next sentence. He says, men who selfishly led their lives with no thought to the future and thought themselves above petty national concerns.
Well, petty national concerns. What does that mean? Politics?
I guess so. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I prefer not to clutter my mind up with what these petty national concerns might be. I mean, charity begins at home. You should take care of yourself, take care of your family, take care of your friends. And frankly, it makes me feel uncomfortable right now that now we're talking about petty national concerns on a YouTube channel. So
Yeah.
yeah, I understand the contradiction, but this is for amusement, okay?
Yeah. And it's, and,
Well,
then
why
the-
does
and
he
then there's,
resent this? I mean, why is he unhappy about what I'm doing? And
yeah. And I think, well, and this goes back to personal responsibility. It's one of these shticks now. And I don't think it's done unintentionally to blame boomers. And I honestly, it goes the other way too, where I see boomers look at millennials or younger and talk about how they, are too weak and too unwilling to work hard and all this other stuff. And the truth is, economically, it's much harder for them today. Um, the social burden for them that they have to pay for is much greater. And I think
yeah,
so. I think between these generations, there's tension, and I think that tension is manufactured. And people love to blame it on somebody else, the problems of the
love to,
world.
love to. On the other hand, you've got to say that boomers were dealt a pretty good set of cards. Uh, we were in the best place in the world to be born after World War II, country that was doing well, had a naturally high standard of living. Things were pretty easy for us boomers, and we were quite spoiled. And it's true that boomers, like all people, are selfish and have kicked the can down the road, and the millennials and the Zers or whoever are going to have to pay the consequences of all the debt that these boomers. Listen, I'm not a fan of boomers. I mean, hey, they got lucky, but on the other hand, people that are born today have much better medical technology available than the boomers did. There's a lot more accumulated real wealth that they can take advantage of that the boomers didn't have. You've got the internet with all of the libraries of the world at your fingertips, which the boomers didn't have. So there have been
And it's
advantages and disadvantages both ways. So don't feel resentful. Feeling resentful is unseemly and really kind of stupid.
Yeah, and the biggest thing is it's denying the personal responsibility again.
Yeah.
And that's the beginning of the end when you do that.
And I've long said, I don't think it's true now, because at age 79, I'm not I'm not physically going to do what I might have done before. But I've said before, if you parachuted me into the middle of the Congo, uh, I'd be fine and do well and have a good time and become wealthy. I wouldn't do it today for all kinds of, but I could have. So if you're unhappy with things and you're blaming the boomers and think you got a rough deal, it's a question of personal responsibility. Look out for yourself and make your own way. I hate people whining about the way things, the rough deal they're getting. Hey, you know what? You know what, pal? You could have been born in Calcutta, uh, 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 in the worst of slums. Well, then maybe you'd have something to complain about. You don't have anything to complain about.
Next is, what do you mean you have convinced 7 men to have kids? Buddy, it's not up to them. Your generation took that option away from them. Now it's all up to women, and they are not willing to do the family kids thing. The best you can hope for is technologies like artificial wombs to come out so that men don't need women to make families anymore. The women are done for. They will never have a family and kids because they never learned how to have a family and kids. Thanks to the choices of women, the Amish shall inherit the world. I think this whole like anti-woman thing is the biggest cop out in the world. Like, I'm not denying that the women are not, like, young women are not lost. They are. They have
Yeah,
all
yeah,
kinds of bad ideas. But I'll tell
yeah.
you what, you could take the most blue-haired crazy woman, and she meets a man with like that is of substance, a man that is a fucking gravity well. She will adopt his ideas. She will turn into whatever he is. Women are flexible like this. It's weird. Guys are not, but women are. They will adapt. And if you, as a man, you got to become a gravity well. You have to become a man of substance. You have to have resources. You have to have ideas. You have to be going places. And when you're like that, you don't ever have a problem with women in America. I mean, and someone later said, oh, but the comment was, both are married to women from third world countries, and they live in third world countries, so they don't get it.
This is so stupid. My wife is a South African, but she's not a third worlder. She's happens to be both a lawyer and an MBA and came from uh, uh, an upper middle class family in South Africa. So,
When it wasn't a third world country.
well, that's right. In those days, the place was just delightful to be. It wasn't going downhill at all. It had its problems, but so these people make these generalizations based on nothing. Wait a minute. Are you married to a woman from a third world country?
No, she's from Connecticut.
That's what I thought.
I know, it's funny. Yeah, that was the next comment that I had tagged here. I had to stop watching this. This is from John Mitchell. So it's a man. I had to stop watching this one almost halfway through because of this guy that couldn't stop talking about reproducing.
That must be you, or is it
Yeah,
me?
it must
I
be
don't know.
me.
Well, well, I'd like to find out more about this person. Has he made it and reproduced?
Well,
Or is he an incel, as they
I
say?
will, I will say he has an emoticon that's vomiting.
Oh,
So maybe he's gay. I don't
maybe
know.
he's gay.
Well, let's just assume John Mitchell's gay. That makes sense. So
Might be.
reproducing would be
Or,
gross to him. Buttholes are not, but reproducing is
maybe,
is.
or maybe he's an incel. I mean, that's apparently a growing group of people.
Yeah, instead he's watching porn, people doing engaging in the act that would lead to reproduction.
Well, is that what he said he's doing? Watching porn?
No, no, but if he's an incel, you have to
Oh,
assume he is.
yeah. Hmm.
So yeah, the problem is we have to make assumptions about them as they make assumptions about us, I guess. So
Well, and
here's
maybe we're making false assumptions. I mean, maybe this guy is absolutely sterling in all ways, and we just caught him on a bad day. We all have bad days, so it's
yeah,
possible.
it's just the vomit emoticon. Well, no, I'm actually there's two. It's I'm sure he's gay. There's a vomit emoticon and then a woman emoticon. So like
Hmm.
women are
Ah,
gross.
oh yeah, right. Yeah, these are like hieroglyphics. You have to kind of put them in context and figure out what they
Yeah,
really mean.
yeah, I didn't really put it all together until just now. So I read English, trying to read Spanish, but I don't read emoticon very well. Um, this one, Doug, he says, I'm really disappointed that you didn't argue with your partner in the podcast about this breeding topic. I know you have opinions on this. And I have to say, and he says, I'm with Doug 100% on not having children. Now I know what maybe most people don't know about you is how exceptionally polite you are. So perhaps you did disagree with me more than you let on in the last podcast.
No, I think that it's fine that you're reproducing. I mean, I don't have a problem with that at all. I think it's fine. Uh, it's not the path that I chose to walk, but that's just me. I don't expect anybody else to do that.
And you
I,
didn't do it, and you didn't do it because of vomit emoticon woman emoticon?
no, listen, I've always liked women. I've always gotten along very well with women. I mean, I don't have a problem with women. I have a problem with the blue-haired communists, you know, ones that go out and demonstrate. But that's not because they're women. It's because they're crazy people.
Well, they're lost. I think they're lost, Doug. More than anything else, they're lost. Like I said, I do believe that even the most women don't really know what they really believe. Their minds can be changed, and I've seen it happen. So, okay, let's see. What other one? Oh, so the title of the podcast was "Who Controls This Prison Planet?" And you know the
Yeah. Yeah.
the funny thing is that there's disagreement about who it is.
Oh, well, is this a religious person that asked that question, or who
No,
does prison
he's
planet?
he's he said, did he name the Jew? I fell asleep, woke up, sounded like Jordan Peterson. So basically he's saying that it's the Jews.
The Jews.
Yeah, but we
Yeah.
also have the Satanic Secret Societies like
Yeah.
Yale University Skull and Bones. We have the
Yeah.
Freemasons
Yeah.
that were also
We got
mentioned.
we got we got the Bilderbergers. We
No
got
one
the
mentioned,
Council on Foreign Relations.
yeah, no one mentioned those two though. There were a lot of Jesuits though talked about.
Well, I'm not a fan of the Jesuits at all, frankly. But
Do they control the world?
huh?
Do they control the world though, do you think?
No, I don't think they do, thank God. Uh, but then again, we got to talk about which God are we referring to? I mean, is it is it Zeus or is it is it wait a minute, the Hindus have a trilogy. Is it what are the three big Hindu gods? They have a
Krishna.
Krishna, Vishnu, and Shiva, I believe. Okay. They have their own trinity. I mean, but there's, and of course, the Christians, or at least the Catholics, I'm not sure, uh, have a tripartite God, and it
Hmm.
brings up all kinds of interesting technical questions about did Yahweh, who is one God, precede Jesus, who's another God, and how does he relate to Allah, actually? Because what I read about Allah, he seems pretty different from Yahweh or Jesus. And the Holy Ghost, I mean, he fits in there someplace, but
It's
he kind of gets
confusing.
yeah, He's confusing. That's right. So is he like
Yeah.
Mercury, the messenger of the gods? I'm not. I'm
Oh
not
yeah, that
entirely
could make
sure.
sense.
It
Yeah.
kind of does. He's the one that delivers. Anyway, this is all space, but this is all science fiction.
Well, and that gets us to the next question. It says, I try, but the more I listen to Doug, it becomes apparent that this man has zero biblical worldview and therefore a limited perspective on the state of the world.
Hmm. Limited. In other words, all knowledge comes from the Bible. If I'm reasonably familiar with the Bible, both Old and New Testament, not like not like somebody that, yes, not like somebody that studies it all day, but I've had a lot of exposure to it, believe it or not. And I'm interested in it. But do I believe it?
I'll make people very upset.
What's that one on the right?
We got the Quran
Oh, the
and the
Quran.
Bible. Oh my
Yeah,
goodness. How
yeah.
dare I?
Oh, they're touching each other, which is probably some type of blasphemy. I don't know.
I don't know. You know, the Muslims believed in Jesus and believed that he
Prophet.
was a prophet.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see what else. If we got anything else good. If you put a child into this system right now, you are the problem. Insidious as fuck to bring another life into this hellhole. Adopt if you want children. Everything else is another level of eugenics in disguise.
Hmm.
Hmm.
I don't know what to make of that.
Well, my life's not a hellhole.
No, no. It's one of these things like, well, thanks for your opinion, man, but kind of speak for yourself, which is all any of us can do.
That is all any of us can do. Yeah. Let's.
We just try, and it's hard. It's hard to speak as rationally as we possibly can, where the things we say have some basis in physical reality or basis even in intellectual or spiritual reality, but not just, raw emotions that are spewed out, which so much of this stuff is. I mean, we've all been guilty of it from time to time.
Yep.
And when I catch myself in the act, I'm ashamed of myself.
Ashamed. Exactly. I always apologize right after.
Yeah. I wonder the degree to which a lot of these people feel shame if they look in the clear night, you know, clear sunlight of day. I mean, maybe a lot of these comments are, have a couple drinks, it's late at night, your mind is wandering, and in the clear light of day, would many of the people say, no, no, I went too far? Or I don't know. Because, it's funny. You meet the average person on a street, and he seems reasonably affable, reasonably rational, but maybe that's just a social veneer that most people put forward, putting their best foot forward. They put forward a favorable social veneer, or in some cases, a mask of sanity. And you got to peel that back. And this is why, even when you're going out with a woman in today's world, you've got to get to know her well enough so you can start peeling back the layers of the onion a little bit. This is relating to an earlier question that we had just occurred to me.
Absolutely. I mean, I had Jane do half a dozen different personality type surveys when we were dating. I know it sounds
Yeah,
crazy, but I did them
no,
too. And I said, you can do them, and I'll give you all mine. You can choose to give yours to me if you want. And of course, the law of reciprocity, it would tell me a lot about her if she didn't want to share, right? So she shared, and we learned more about each other, But, um, I mean, I was in love with her, so it's dangerous. So, you got to be careful. Like, let's trying to get some objective reality in here. So get beyond the social veneer. But I think the interesting thing about these comments and what they reveal is they reveal what's behind that mask. And it's kind of a prelude to, I think, what's coming. This next comment summarizes it well. And I assume Doug, sorry to say, he's talking about you here.
Hmm.
He says this guy epitomizes an evil old man.
Oh, well, I didn't realize. But how? Can he tell me how? I mean,
No.
no. Oh, okay.
Well, I mean, I will go ahead and reply. Can you explain what you mean? I doubt he'll ever reply, but
Well, he won't get that message directly. He'd have to dig back into the comments and
he'll
read.
get a little notification in YouTube about it.
Oh, that happened. So he'll know that you replied. Yeah, no, I'd like to hear the particulars of his indictment.
Yeah, because I mean, I can think of some Klaus Schwab, um, maybe George Soros. You know,
Yeah.
like
Hey, I've accused them of being evil old men, so I guess turnabout is fair play.
yeah, but I don't think I haven't ever seen you express a quality of an evil man. But whatever. Um, I'd love to have kids, but one look around this place made me decide otherwise. Who would bring another soul into this disgusting shit show?
Hmm.
It is a shit. The world is kind of a shit show.
Yeah, it
But
is
that's the macro world.
the macro world, right?
My
Yeah.
household isn't a shit show.
No, it's up to you if you're going to bring kids into it to try to insulate themselves from the really bad parts of the world. So it's uh, maybe that's a comment just from somebody that's having a bad day.
Could be, could be. And this is along the same lines. Yes, have kids so you can be all you can be. You're basically bringing 80 years of suffering into the world. Hopefully their lives go well, but why would you care? Just have more kids. Adopt. And please spay and neuter your people.
Well,
This is I have to say, and no offense, Doug, obviously, because there are exceptions, but what I've been able to witness, that most males do not become men until they have children. They still
hmm,
have childish views in the world. They have a weird sense of responsibility,
yeah.
and this is clearly a person who doesn't have kids, in my opinion.
Well, that's true. Yeah, it's a whole nother level of responsibility. But having kids, I mean, if you're just the baby
That
father,
if yeah, no, it's
just
being a
desiring
father.
some female, that doesn't count. That's easy to do.
It's being a father.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and I've got to say, a lot of fathers, I don't think do their job particularly well. Well, what do they have to do really? They have to provide for the physical welfare of the kid in various ways,
Yeah,
but it's not even the most important thing.
it's not at all. But you know what? My dad was a complete fuck up. So, I mean, he missed out.
Yeah.
Did I miss out as a kid? Yeah, but I don't feel sorry for myself. I feel sorry for him because
Yeah.
I got to experience something he didn't get to, honestly. So, yeah, I mean, what are you gonna do? I mean, just yeah. Yeah, I really agree with most of what you guys say, but oh my God, you cannot possibly say how children turn out to be as like a lottery. What the fuck? Stop blaming children for what they become. If your children are happy, healthy, successful, wise, it's because you did a lot right. If your children become mass murderers, it's your fault. There's obviously a correlation between single mom households and criminality, mass murders. Okay, just again, I grew up with a single mother. My dad was a fuck up. So no criminality here. So I'm not saying that there can't be some relationship, but it isn't like it's a sure thing. I mean, I think that when I first held my daughter, looked into her eyes, I look into her eyes now, she's the same person.
Hmm. Well, what's the point that this person is making that you're responsible for how your kids grow up, or your kids are
I,
responsible?
I think it was the joke
Depending
I
on
said.
how they-
I think it was the joke I made. It's like, well, you never really know how your kids are going to turn out. So, more shots on goal is better. More kids is
Mhm.
better.
Okay.
Yeah. But of course, you should be a good father. It's for your own selfish benefit, which also happens to be good for the kids.
Yeah, exactly. It all has to do with having personal ethics and trying to live a decent life where the consequences of your personal karma are positive as opposed to negative.
How about this one, Doug? Doug's take on having kids is very telling. Thinks it's positive that you can disown them once they're adults if they don't turn out as you desire, like children are business adventure.
Well, what are you supposed to do after the kid reaches whatever the age of reason and where you can maintain it? Is he supposed to be an albatross around your life for the rest of your life? Is that what you're supposed to do? I mean, why are you obligated? Once he's 18 or 21 or whatever the number you want to pick is, are you supposed to maintain him? Or if you failed in your job to make him a decent human being, what are you supposed to do? Keep a poison snake hanging around your house? I don't understand where that question's coming from.
Yeah, I'm not really sure, actually. Could come from an angle of somebody who's 28 years old and their parents are still paying their cell bill, their cellular phone bill, maybe. It could come from that perspective, or it could be from somebody who has young kids who can't imagine not being part of their life when they get older.
Okay, well, they're understandable.
Yeah, could be. I work, but see, the thing is, you have to realize is that your kids can disown you also.
Well, and they,
It's
and they usually do, because unless you have a lot of money and they're successful, you're actually a liability to your kids after you reach a certain age.
it's true.
So,
It's totally true, which is why it's so important to try and have a long view with your kids and want the best for them and hopefully develop some sense of reciprocity, where you maintain a relationship, which requires ongoing work. But at any point, they could decide this old man's not worth it to me anymore and just move on. I recognize that, but no one would consider that evil today. Um,
no, that's what usually happens, but not so much by intention, just by being lazy and distracted.
right. Yep. Yeah, and also I think that I like the idea more of a family unit. Like I see my role as the patriarch, a bad word, of my family as the trustee. And I have a job which is temporary in nature, and when I pass on, hopefully there will be a new trustee. So I don't see them as 18 years old and out the door. I don't want them to be lifelong dependents on me, but I don't have this view of there's like this cutoff because it's a relationship, and the relationship should live on.
I completely agree. And I would only disown them if I felt that they really deserved to be disowned. And I tell them that, but there is this parable from the Bible about the prodigal son. And if someone straightens himself out and comes back, well, of course.
Open arms,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Yeah,
But the
yeah.
important thing is, for your own benefit and the benefit of people around you that you love, you must disconnect from evil or destructive influences. Just disconnect from them. Doesn't mean you have to punish them. Just disconnect. Wish them well and hope that they straighten out. See you later.
Someone says to me, anyone who brings a child into this world hates that child.
Listen, we're getting a lot of comments along these lines, aren't we? These are all from people, aren't they?
Yeah,
Apparently.
and I replied and I said, says someone with neither children nor a clue. And he replies that my response was a cheap cop out. What am I supposed to say? I don't hate my kids? I think it's
Right.
obvious. I don't know what else I could say.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
they're mostly like that.
Look, there's a lot of problems. We live in a material world, okay? And you've got maybe 80 years, 80 good years, and everything falls apart and in the end. So there's all kinds of problems with being here. I mean, I wish we lived in heaven. Uh, I don't know which heaven that might be. There's a lot of versions of heaven. But how long is heaven going to last? Uh, the best estimate on the part of astrophysicists is that the universe, and I, I'm presuming just one universe at this time, although there are some that assert that we have many or an infinite number of universes. Who the hell knows? This is all conjecture. So, how long is this heaven going to last? Is it going to last a million years or a trillion or a trillion years? I mean, what are you going to do all day in this heaven? I mean, you get tired of 72 virgins after a while, I think.
I would think. I would think.
Well, where do those virgins come from? Do they have any? Are they going to be like female androids that created to? This is also
Right.
goofy. Things that people believe. No, yes, I believe we're probably on a prison planet because people believe such stupid things and they do such stupid things.
Yeah. Yeah. So what is this, all these comments though? And again, a lot of them were against me having kids, which tells me, shows me this huge issue with people and kids. But there are a lot of other comments that were directed toward you, although they weren't as detailed. They were just more like, snarky insults. But
Yeah, right.
what is this? The combination of this and the combination of the video or the interview that you had with Kim and those comments tell you about the zeitgeist, about what lies beneath the mask of civilization today.
Well, I'm of the opinion that we're at the edge of World War III, and maybe even worse than World War III, a civil war where people in the US, among other countries, really dislike their neighbors, maybe most of their neighbors. So maybe
Right,
this is,
and it's clearly not just a red blue thing because the comments toward me for encouraging people to have kids, a lot of them were hateful. Not I disagree, but that it was evil. It was insidious for me to encourage people to have kids. I mean, these are hateful kind of comments, something that you would expect maybe maybe on political spectrum divide, but on something that seems so
it's more basic. It's like spiritual. It's a real unhappiness with the fact that the world exists. I mean, this is serious. I don't think there's anything in previous world literature that indicates such a large number of people were unhappy with reality itself.
and what does that and what does that mean then, do you think?
I don't think it's good. I don't think it's good at all. That's kind of obvious.
Yeah.
And what can
I
we
just
do about it? I mean,
We could stop talking about stuff is what we can stop doing, and that's about it.
well, the old saying, let he who can save himself. And talking about this type of thing is, if anything, likely to trigger some unhappy people that will either turn us into a nasty government agency on real or imagined grounds, or grab the bull by the horns and do something bad himself to excise us.
Right? I mean, we're traitors. We didn't stay in America to fight. Traitors a capital
That's right.
crime.
And, and I'm trying to figure out, how do you fight? Are you supposed to grab your AR-15 and go out and and shoot people. I mean, assuming that you're supposed to fight, it seems to me that changing people's minds and directing them towards a better way is the most effective thing you can do. And I think we do that, although there are many people who think we're doing the
We're
opposite.
failing.
So, it's
Yeah.
like, thank you for,
It's a no good deed goes unpunished.
no, that's for
I'm
sure.
trying to share with people the greatest joy of my life and have had others tell me that I was right, that it is true, that they experience the same. And the hate, the hate.
Well, Orwell did put his finger on it with, you know, there was 2 minutes of hate every day when everybody got out into the street and just did their hate thing.
Yeah. So this was our I don't know how many minutes of hate this is, but this we'll just call this our, I'll add it up when we're done. There are minutes of hate. And who knows, maybe this will be for as long as we continue to do this. Maybe we'll do this, check in from time to time on the zeitgeist and the hatred that's, kind of boiling below the surface and share it with our viewers again.
Yeah, I appreciate comments from listeners that say, you guys are great, blah, 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 love letters. Everybody likes love letters.
Yeah.
And and the hate mail too. That's
Yeah.
fine. And
Oh, I,
and
I love it all. Comments are great. Honestly, it's great. But just expand, just add one more sentence to just one more so that we can better understand what you're saying.
yeah, not just an expression of how you feel, because we don't know why. I'd like to know why you feel that way. That would make it much more helpful and interesting. So whether you send love mail, love letters, or hate mail, either one, add an explanation in there, please.
Yeah, we'd love to see it. We read them. We enjoy it. Sometimes we're shocked by it, but sometimes we learn stuff and sometimes we improve because of it. I
Yeah, and
lost a little
actually,
weight after that guy said I was fat.
and the worst thing actually is not getting any reaction at all. I mean,
Yeah.
everybody likes to feel that they're having an effect, and the way you know that you're having an effect of whatever type is because people respond to it. So if we got no comments,
We
that
just
would
stop. We would stop for sure.
what would be the point exactly?
Yeah.
Talking into the ether doesn't do any good. So yeah, we'd stop. So if you'd like us to close down the show, don't make any comments at all.
Exactly.
That would be for the people that really hate us. That's what they should do. Not make any comments at all.
Yeah, but they won't be able to control their emotional
No, no,
response.
no,
There's just
no way.
something satisfying about saying that you're an evil old man. I don't
Yeah.
know. All right. Well, we'll leave it there for now, Doug. We'll be back with questions on Friday. Maybe those questions from our viewers might trigger our viewers again. We'll see.
That's right. We have comments, counter comments, questions on the counter comments. I mean, we can have kind of a dialogue with people. So it doesn't have
Yeah,
to be just a one-way flow, does it?
exactly. We like it that way. All right.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, Doug, very much. We'll see you in a couple of days.
Great, Matt. Thanks.